Very good morning, students. Today class we are going to study about network address translation, simply called by the NAT. So, what is the purpose of NAT? So, before I proceed with the NAT, I want to explain about what is basics of NAT and types of NAT. So, the purpose of the NAT is to enhance the IP address, IP version for IP addresses. See, we have the limited IP version for our IP addresses. So, in the same company or on home, we are using multiple devices. Means the multiple IP addresses is not possible to connecting with the internet. So that in that moment we have every local devices. For example, on home we are using the four devices, two mobile phone, two laptop means all the four devices we can't use the public IP addresses. Okay, so individual public addresses we can't assign for these four devices. At the time we are using the router. Now router will be acting as a network address translator. It will be converting the or mapping these four devices IP addresses into the public one single IP address. Okay, so at the time these four devices will be using the private IP addresses. Okay, so there are several private IP addresses screen. Example 10.0.0 and 172.16.0.0, 192.160.0.0. These are all local private IP addresses. Now, suppose we are using 50 systems in your company, means all the 50 systems we can assign to the local IP addresses 192.160.0.1, 192.160.0.2, 0.3 up to 0.50 we can assign. Okay, so local IP addresses. But these 50 systems want to use the connecting with the internet means it need the public IP address. So at the time these private IP addresses will be converted to the public IP address. So public address, say for example 125.110.12.13, like that I have the public IP address. So now I use the 50 addresses, no, 190.160.0.1 to 50 I use it, no. These 50 addresses will be converted to the public address of 125.10.12.13. So this conversion of private IP addresses to the public IP address is called the network address translation. It will be taken by the router. So now router will be acting as a network address translation. This is the basics of the network address translator. Now, example also explained. So we can take the home also. In the home we are using the four devices. No, the four devices we want to use the internet means we not need to connecting with the four internet service provider. Okay, one internet service provider, one public IP address will instead. This all four devices will be converted to the public addresses with the use of the NAT. Okay, so that it will be connecting with the outside world, outside internet. This is the basics of NAT. And next, so there are three kinds of NATs are that: static NAT, dynamic NAT, and overloading NAT overloading, or you can call it as the port address translation. Okay, PAT, that's that type. So static network address translation means in the private network, for example, one company, one system is there. In that system want to communicate with the outside world means then this private we assign the private address for that particular single system, then that single system will be converted to the public internet address. Okay, public IP address. So one private address to one public address. This is called the static NAT, but this is not useful, no. So one system means directly we can assign the public address. Now why we are using the private IP address for the single system, that is not used. So waste one. Second one is a dynamic NAT. Here, that is I explained before, no, that four devices want to communicate with the outside world means they want to convert it to the single IP address, public IP address means that time we are using the dynamic NAT. So among the four private device, which one is want to use in the public address means that device will be converted into the network address. The use of network address translation converted into the public IP address. Okay, that is a dynamic NAT. So say another one example, for example, one company where there are 50 devices are there. So some limited pool of IP address, public IP addresses is there. So say for example 5 IP addresses are there. So these 50 systems they can use the public address at a time. So the pool of addresses, any one address it can use to convert into this private address to the public address. Okay, that's a dynamic NAT. Dynamic public IP addresses are there. That pool of addresses the systems can use it. Okay, the local private systems can use it. That is a dynamic NAT. What is overloading or NAT overloading, or otherwise you can call it as the port address translation? That means here the private I previously I told, no, for 50 system they can use the some available pooled IP address, that is dynamic NAT, no. So in that case also, among the 50 private systems, only 5 systems they can use the 5 pool of IP address at a time. Okay, because only available address is 5. Suppose 50 IP addresses there, means the 50 private network, private system can use the 50 public IP address, that is possible. But only 10 addresses there, means the 50 systems, among the 50 private system, only 10 system can use the addresses at a time. Okay, now to avoid that, we go for the third type, overloading NAT, or port address translation. Here, the same address, same public address, for example 128.10.12.13, the same address will be used by the several systems, several private systems. Okay, how it's possible? No? So port number we can assign. So for example, port number 1, 2, 3 of the private system 1, they can use the same address of 128.10.12.13 of port number 123. Second private system, they can use the port number 456. So same, they can also utilize the same IP address 128.10.12.13 with port number 456. Like that, the same private system they can use the so different private system they can use the same IP address but different port number. That is the third type. So this is the types of network address translation. 3 types: static NAT, dynamic NAT, and overloading. So in this example, here the 3 private system is there: computer A, computer B, computer C. It will be communicate with the outside internet world, to the that's outside world, ISP, internet service provider, through the router. Now router can convert this private address of A, B, C to public address, something 72.134. Some XXI given, so it converted to some address 10.1, 10.12, like that it will be converted. So we can, n number of systems we can convert it to the public IP addresses. Okay, that is possible. Private address to the public IP address, with conversion called as the network address translation. How it's possible? First initiated by the private systems, then it will reach the router, then router will be mapping the private IP address to the public IP address. Okay, for example, first 192.168.1.2, it will be mapped to 72.134.1.2. Next, computer B 192.168.1.4, it will be mapped to 72.134.10.50, something different address. Similarly, computer C 168.14 to 72.134. some 10.15, like that it will be converted. So mapping. So the mapping tab will have it in the router. And the case of that type, NAT overloading, there we are using the pad table. Pad table means port address translation table, that is also available in the router. Okay, so which private system communicate with the outside public IP address, the use of the different port address. Okay, so that is the pad table, that also hold by the router. The advantage is it's a straightforward mechanism, directly convert the private address to public address. The disadvantage is to so there is no end-to-end communication here, since we want to communicate the private to the public. So the streaming is not possible here. Okay, and the not possible means this disrupted here. Okay, so DCP, UDP, Ethernet protocols and all continuously they are connectionless protocol on UDP. There the converting time, the streaming is not possible. Okay, so that's all about the network address translation. So what we today class we studied about the what is NAT and types of NAT and advantage, disadvantage, and mechanism, conversion mechanism of NAT. Okay, thank you students.